Hey students, just let me know if I'm audible. Okay. Cool. Uh, so if you can just confirm in the chat section, no, I guess we're good to go. I'll just go ahead and just start off the things. Okay, thanks for telling me it's audible. Please confirm if there is any problem with the video also. If there's nothing, we're good to go. We'll start off the class. Yeah. Okay. Hey, hi Gnan Prakash. Hi Gopal. Okay. Cool. A very good evening. I know it's a little late in the evening, but then I guess it's just a Thursday, and I'm sure a lot of you, if you're working, you would have like wrapped up your day, kind of been here for the live class. I'm super excited for this class. The reason being is that this topic that I'm going to be discussing today is something that's very near to me. Again, as I told you, is because I've predominantly worked on this topic, and every nuisances or every issues that is raised in this topic is something that I've seen it personally, right? So I guess a lot in terms of the practical sense, and a lot that I can bring to you in terms of this topic. So of course, there would be a question to you that what topic are we discussing today? We will be discussing about this topic, which is search and status report. Of course, I've done a very small short video on this. That was more of like a informatory or, not a very detailed version. But here we will be discussing predominantly on every aspect of things, like what this report, why the report even came into existence in the first place, what's the meaning of this report, and, like, of course, what are the different aspects, who are the different stakeholders who are involved in this report. Last but of course, search and status report is again a common topic. Under that, there are various reports that we will be studying. This particular chapter forms part of Secretarial audit in the segment 1. So that's part A, which is for 40 marks, if I'm not wrong. And I often keep telling my students is that please concentrate on this part. The reason being is that this is the most very good, well-fetching section, because there's lesser number of chapters and the marks is for 40, which is our good number. I normally call this as a super number, or that magic number. The reason being is that once we cross that, we're good to go, right? So hence, please concentrate on this. We'll have a blast studying about this, so don't worry. Any particular time, if you have any issues, see, I have the chat section open. Of course, there would be a delay in a minute or so, but if you have, or if you feel, if you're facing any issues, please let me know and we can take that up accordingly, right? Awesome. Your voice is not properly audible. Okay, let me just increase the volume of this thing. Okay, is it audible now properly? That's a very recent message, so I thought that, just to avoid the issues, if you're audible, then we're good, or otherwise I'll just change certain settings. That's also okay. Yeah. Cool. Fine. Hey, thanks for confirming. If you're good, as I told you, again, I'm just gonna switch between my screen and also my videos. So don't worry if there's any point of time, if you're slower manner, please be allowed. I'll make sure that I'll do that, right? I'll just share my screen. Okay. Cool. I guess we are. One second. Sorry. We're discussing a search and status report. What do we understand by this report? I guess in the most simplest manner, I can say we are understanding if any person gives this report to you, the basic understanding that you have to get is that we are understanding about the compliance status of a company, right? Any company this particular report has been made for, that company's compliance status is what something that we are understanding, right? And in today's classes, predominantly we will discuss about a little background and introduction of this report, the meaning, scope, and the importance, who this report is being useful for, why is it important, why is it relevant, and we will discuss what we as a company secretary, the major role we play in search of charges, and what a search of charges is, what a search report as per the company's act is, and property title search, which is the last thing, right? So that's predominantly our agenda that we will be following today. I will split up among each of them, and any given point of time, as I already told you, please, be open with your questions. I'm more happy to take it, right? So that's pretty much a thing. Now I'll just 1 second. I'll stop sharing my screen. Okay. So what's a little background? Okay, sorry. So what's a little background of this, guys? Like, why did this entire report first initially came into picture, right? Just to understand this, we will have to know a major or an important characteristic of a company, or I would want to mention an important characteristic of a company, which is the separate legal entity status. What the separate legal entity status is, it is that an entity, which is our company, is separate from its shareholders and all those stakeholders who's involved in that company. The reason being is that the company, being a separate legal entity, has the power to borrow, right? And the search and status report, especially the charges, predominantly deals with the borrowing. Now, you tell me, I'm sure, I guess there is a question directly in front of you. I'm sure you know there are two capitals which predominantly get used in this, in our companies. That is the own capital, which is the share capital of the company, and the borrowed capital. So what this borrowed capital is, this is that capital where the company has borrowed from an outsider, but the obligation is with the company to be straight and to make the payment on a regular basis to the stakeholders, whosoever it has borrowed the money from, right? With that, now let's assume that there is a borrowing that's happening. A company goes and want to ask that, okay, like for my working capital or for my long-term requirement, I want to borrow the money, right? And the borrowing of the money can happen through term loans, working capital demand loans, OD facility, CC facility, the issuance of NCD, CP, so many other ways. Just like how we have capital raising, right from equity to preference shares, redeemable preference shares, and different other sort of capitals, which is the own capital. Borrowing also, the borrowing capital also has a various avenues where we can raise the money. Now let's assume we are going and we are asking a bank or a financial institution that please give us a money, which is about maybe 50 crore for our example. Now when we go there, the first predominant question for anyone who would come, or anyone who's giving the money to us would come, is that, can he repay my money back, right? That's like a major simple question that comes to everyone. I guess this is a simple example that we can even accommodate even in our real lives, is that let's assume any of your friend comes to you and they ask you for like $1,000 and they say, hey, you know what, I'll give you after like 10 days. So I'm sure, of course, with the will and wish that you want to help your friend, you definitely want to give. But you also would think that, is he a worthy person to give that money back which he has borrowed, right? Now let's assume he has no job, or he's not something who's doing really great in his life. He already has a lot of debt on his hand, and then he comes and asks you for a lack of money. You would think twice, right? So this thinking process also has applied to the banks, financial institutions, or any other people who's planning to give the money to us, especially as a company. So what they do is they want to know if the company is in a good status to give the money back which they have given to us as a company, right? So that's the reason the bank, financial institution, or various regulator came up with the concept of having the search and status report. What they meant is, boss, I'm going to give you the money, but show me your worth, show me your credibility, show me your viability in terms of paying me back, right? So with this as an introduction, let's go and understand the meaning and why the search and status report is so important, especially in the scenario of a company secretary, and how well we can answer the questions pertaining to this. I'm just stopping a bit for a while. Just a little recap. Just remember the reason why this entire report wanted to be in existence was because we wanted to borrow money as a company, and people who were planning to give the money to us wanted to know our viability or the credibility in terms of paying them back. So the report which wanted or which aimed at giving the information about the credibility of us as a company was the search and status report. Hence the details, or hence the the invention, not even invention, I would say, hence the impact of having the search and status report or getting a search and status report in the industry was made in picture, right? So that's a little background. I hope we are clear so far. I'm sure most of you already know about this, but I just wanted to give a small background about why this entire report initially came into picture. So before I go ahead to the meaning and tell you why this report, what is it called, what are the different names it's been called, what exactly are the segments involved in it, I will stop and pause a while, and you can shoot out the questions. If you have already, I'll see that, right? 1 second. Sorry, my bad. Okay. I see there are no, sorry, if I'm lagging behind, please tell me, is there any questions? If you're clear, please mention we are clear, I'm good to go. Or I'll assume that if everything is okay, then I'll just, go ahead with the meaning of this topic. Okay. Cool. I guess I'm not really getting any chat, so I'm assuming that we're clear until now. Yeah, as I told you, you're free to give out the details what you want in terms of things. So please feel free and put out your questions in the chat section. And whenever I see that, I'll definitely answer your questions, right? Now, coming back to, because we have understood the fact that why this entire report came into picture, let's understand the fact that what a meaning or what are the segments involved in this report, right? I'll just share my screen. Okay, cool. So what is the meaning, right? Search and status report. What a search and status report would mean. As I told you, search and status report has two facets or two segments to it. One is the search, in the name itself we talk about, which involves the physical inspection of documents, whereas the second facet or a second segment of this report is comprising of the reporting or a reporting segment of the information which is made available or which was made or informed by the way of search, right? So two things, guys, please remember, there happens to be a physical examination. Please don't go by the word physical because now we are in the COVID world. Nothing is happening physically. Everything is happening over a, scanned images or anything that's, we're just sitting and just kind of verifying the documents or any other thing for that matter. So just please mention about the inspection of documents or any other supporting relevant evidences pertaining to it. And reporting the same, whatever the information that you have received by inspection, reporting the same is called the status, like, statusing or putting out the report or putting out the brief line of information, what you have got by understanding from the inspection of documents and supporting evidences is the status, right? So there are two facets, which is search and status. It's also called as a progress report of the company, and it gives ready reference to the exact situation. What's the exact situation? Exact situation of the compliance status of the company, right? Now, again, don't worry, I'm not going to stop here with the meaning. I'll definitely go a little in depth, but I just wanted to show this slide to you, just for you to remember pictorially that it contains of two things, which is search and status, by the name itself say. Search stands for physical inspection of documents. Please avoid the word physical, just the inspection of documents. Status is just reporting of whatever the information that you have got or understood by the way of search, right? Awesome. Now, let me stop sharing my screen. Okay. 1 second. Okay. So coming back to our topic of what a meaning or a facets or a segments the search and status report involves, in an easy manner, I would like to say that a report is something that is prepared by a professional. So who are these professionals? A professional like CA, CS, or for that matter, any attorney. So what he does is he goes, let's assume there is a requirement from a bank or financial institution or any of the regulators. So the regulators comes and approaches that particular professional and say that, hey, would you want to prepare a search and status report? The thing that should come into your mind as a professional is that what they're asking you is they're asking you to comment upon the compliance status of the company, especially pertaining to the borrowings. Again, as I told you, every report has certain specific, intention behind them. There are times when only when you have to, kind of evaluate only charges, then you predominantly have to go and work towards the charges that is registered with the ROC. Otherwise, if the status report or search and status report is about the entire company as a whole, then you will have to give a little more extra information or evaluate based on the company status, the respective powers in terms of an MOA, AOA, and what are the list of directors, shareholders list, and if there is any change in the shareholding, what are these recent changes in the shareholding that has been, everything. So based on the intention, so who's coming to you, I'm definitely will be studying about that at a later stage, but who's coming to you, with what intention is coming to you as a client, you will have to remember that and do your research or do that reporting of this, or make the search ideally of the company. So considering, coming back to a topic of very two segments, which is the search and status, what you do is initially anything as a first thing that should come to your mind when you hear this report name is that what you do is you do a first search of the documents of the company. While you do that, you evaluate on the various aspects, right? That based on the intention. So you check the charges, you check on the information about the company, you check about the powers that is pertaining to the company, you check about the directors, you check about shareholdings, you check about the changes that has happened in the shareholding from a period that was before to now, and you check out on the various aspects based on the objective that you have agreed with your client, and then report the same as a part of, progress report, or report the same as a part of compliance status, right? So first, initially, your involvement would be based on the search. Second, your involvement would be whatever the information that you've found or whatever the things that you've understood, you will report where you will report or put the same thing in the report, and then give the details to your client that, hey, boss, look at this. I have done a search. I have done the ROC search. Let's assume we are only searching predominantly on the charges. I've done this search based on the ROC records. This is my view on certain things. If you have any questions, you can definitely ask the company that you're dealing with, or you can ask your client to actually ask certain questions to that particular company. And then based on the responses that is received from the company, you finalize your report. So ideally, it's very similar to an audit. What auditor does, auditor simply just verify all the documents. He has certain opinions, he has certain issues, he will raise to the company and he'll get it resolved. Or if there is something that's not resolved, he will report the same in the report, right? Similar way, you do the search, you do the examination of the records of the company, you find out what are the issues, and you ask for the responses from that particular company, and then finally put out your thoughts in the report. So search and putting out the information or putting out your thoughts in the manner of status is the search and status report. So that's pretty much the meaning of what a search and status report is. Any questions so far? Of course, as I told you, it has been called in the various different names. Definitely it's kind of called progress report, it's called ready recno, it's called like a report on the compliances, various different way based on the stakeholders analysis. But it's at the end of the day, you just have to know two things. You will do the search, you will put out your thoughts by the way of putting out in the status or reporting the same. So that's pretty much a search and status report for you, right? Now, before we go ahead, the next topic that we'll be discussing is about the search of charges or search under the Companies Act, and how important as a CS within the company, which is an in-house CS or in-house legal counsel, what role they play in the search and status report, and what a PCS or a PCA, or for that matter, any professional play a role in preparing the search and status report. So those two segments we will study in the next segment, right? Any questions so far? 1 second. I'm just seeing certain questions. Ma'am, if a practicing company secretary provides incorrect search and status report to the bank, then what are the penalties or infringement to the PCS? As I told you, apparently there's nothing called right or wrong. The idea is, you know what, I guess there are declarations that a practicing company secretary or any professional gives specific to the search and status report, is that based on the information that is available in the records as on this particular date with an MCA, I'm providing this report, right? So ideally, it's professional, whosoever he has to, like download that particular status of the company in terms of charges or in terms of the company's records and attach that as a form of a part of his report. So ideally, he can always put his obligation, or he can always transfer his obligation based on the MCA records. So the penalty involved in terms of that is less because there's no actually way out for the penalty. But still, if there is something that he has shown out of the way of what is shown in the MCA records, then of course ROC and MCA can definitely take a disciplinary action on him or her. But ideally, if you just attach the document, attach the list, or attach any supporting evidences based on the MCA list, he has no will to give. So he has just verified whatever there is in the public records. So ideally, his obligation towards any sort of a penalty is less. So that is something that I can tell. Okay. Is there any other question? Okay. I see there's no other question. We'll move to the next segment. What we've understood why the entire search and status report came into picture. We have understood there are two facets in the search and status report, one being the search, second being the status, right? Search of the physical examination or the documents pertaining to the company. Please don't go by the word again, physical. We are in the COVID world. I've been repeating the same, but still please remember that. So just mention inspection of documents. And on the second side, reporting, or giving out the details of whatever you have learned from searching the documents is something, or putting out the same thing in the form of a report is the status, right? So two facets, search and status. Of course, it's called in the different names, but yeah. So that's pretty much about the meaning and the scope that's involved in the search and status report. Now let's go ahead and understand who are the stakeholders who comes normally and ask the professionals like us to provide the search and status report, right? 1 second, I'll start sharing my screen. Okay, hope it's visible. Well, as I told you, the objective of this report is to assist the banks, financial institution, all these guys are the stakeholders. So most of these guys come with a different objective. Lender to evaluate the extent up to which the company has already borrowed the funds. As I told you, it wants to know, the person who's supposed to be giving us the money wants to know that how much I have borrowed so far, right? If let's assume if I'm a company, or maybe as a normal individual only, we will never disclose how much we have borrowed or what's our earnings, right? So that's something that is always there as a societal, issue. So what it does is it wants to really know from an independent person, professionals like us, to ideally get the confirmation that what that particular company has borrowed the funds, or how much, to what extent it has borrowed the funds. Second, enables the banks, financial institution, lenders, or investors in making their lending and investment decisions. As I told you, it is even used for a shareholder. For a matter of fact, if he's investing in that particular company, he will know that where a company is standing in terms of debt, in terms of the owned capital and borrowed capital. He will get the confirmation from a professional based on this. And there is no way that it can be, it could go wrong. The reason being is that someone who's independent to all this transaction is seeing and verifying the details. So hence, this will help in deciding for a bank. Let's assume a bank is planning to give about 50 crore, and they see that the property that's there with the company, or already the property that they're planning to give as a security to that particular loan, is already hypothecated with another lender, and the same property is about maybe 100 crore worth, and that particular loan they've already taken is about 70 crore worth. So what it does is, right from 50 crores, it will reduce its risk appetite to about 20 crores, and thinks that, hey, you know what? If the same asset of 100 crore worth is already given for a 70 crore loan, there's a higher possibility that I only have 30 crore left out of it. So it's not great for me to give about 50 crore, money to that particular company. Let me reduce my risk appetite and only give the percentage of 20 crore. So now the bank also knows that, okay, the property is worth 100 crore, but entire overall kind of like a risk that's involved is lesser than 90% or whatever. And then they'll be able to know, okay, still if something happens in the industry or something happens in the market value, still I'll be able to, get the money back by the sale of that asset. So that's pretty much lending and investment decisions, how it will be determined, and gives the information on the loan servicing history. It will give the information that how the company has been paying its loan back, right? So that's pretty much the purpose and objective. Now, again, I'll switch back to the video. I just want you to see this particular slide. By banks to know the credit history, by directors to know the company's history, by shareholders to know the history of the company or share history of the company, and by government authorities, customers and suppliers, regulators to know the compliance status of the company. So these are the respective stakeholders. Of course, stakeholders are large in number, but these are the predominant stakeholders who would want to ask, or who normally comes to with the requirement of taking a search and status report, right? Awesome. Let me just stop sharing my screen. Okay. What we were discussing, as I told you, 1 second. Yeah. So what were we discussing, guys? We were discussing that so many different people come with a different objective. As I already mentioned to you, that banks come with an objective of knowing your credit worthiness. It's a very simple example. Let's assume if most of you are working, or if you're not working also, you're seeing any of your sibling or your mother and father or any of the people around you, is that they normally take a credit card, right? And a person who's planning to take a credit card, or even if a bank or any other institution approaches them, what they ask is, they ask the salary slip, or they ask the income statement and bank statement of that particular person. So based on that, they will determine how much is the value of credit limit that they can give. Let's assume someone's salary is about 5 lakhs, and some bank has gone and approached him and said that, hey, boss, we are happy to give you about, like, let's assume, credit card, and can we know your, entire annual salary or a gross salary? Let's assume he's a salaried employee. So he says that he is earning about 5 lakh. So the bank comes and determines, or the person or a bank institution determines that, okay, he's earning about 5 lakh, so there would be expenses of so much amount. I guess it's worthy enough for me to give about good 60,000 to 1 lakh worth of credit limit. So even if something goes bad, I can still go and claim it on a salary, or he'll be able to pay me back, because that's not crossing more than 20% of the salary. So based on the different criteria that is available with the company, they will determine this. In a similar way, as I already told you with an example, bank determines on various aspects. They will get to know, okay, it's the same property being other mortgaged or pledged to another, bank institution was given 70 crore worth of loan. It will decide that, let me reduce my risk appetite from 50 crore to 30 crore, or even for that matter, 20 crore, and say that, you know what, 70 crore will go there and 20 crore I'm going to give. So let 20 crore come to me by the way of sale of asset. And that 10 crore, it will think that if something goes in the market also, if the value of the property reduces also, that's the, risk, or maybe that's, how do I say, that's a risk cushioning that it's planning to give for itself, and then, reduce the risk of it. See, as I told you, coming from a bank or coming from a financial institution background, I can say that every bank is worried of an NPA. They don't want their NPA book to just go high, because all of us just give money, and if the money is not being repaid to us as a financial institution, how we run the business, right? So NPAs, or reducing the NPAs, is the main objective of that bank or financial institution. Hence, the bank and financial institution, to understand the credit worthiness and the viability of a company to pay back the money that it has given to, that particular company, is what the importance or with the objective the bank and financial institution comes with the requirement of this report. Now, directors and shareholders, directors, the reason why they come is because they will be inducted to that company. They want to know if there is any default that company has done. They want to know if the company is doing something wrong, or if the company is reflecting its borrowings and assets in the right possible manner in the financial statements or balance sheet for that matter. So just to know, with an objective of knowing where the company is standing in terms of its borrowing disclosures, in terms of its asset disclosures, in terms of its financial position as a whole, and default history, the directors comes and asks for this report. Now, the third one who will ask for this report is the shareholder. See, shareholder is putting a lot of trust on the company and giving their money. And the shareholders comes with this. They're not even the lenders, right? They're not even someone who's coming and getting their money paid or repaid back on a regular basis. They come and they believe that the company will grow to certain heights, and with that heights, they can make the advantage of the share prices and all. So considering they concentrate on a capital appreciation of whatever the capital that they put, they definitely want to know where the company is standing and its disclosures towards borrowing. So that's the reason, again, shareholders requires. And last but not the least, regulators, people like different stakeholders like customers, suppliers, and all, they want to know, or they want to get this report just to understand that how a company is doing. Is it complying to the certain requirements or regulatory requirements? There are times when even regulators comes and normally just ask, have you got a certain status report, especially the financial institution ones, whosoever is in the business of borrowing and lending. So they come, they ask this information, and they also want to see if the company does even have a borrowing power. There are a lot of times, guys, please be very careful. Kindly read the powers that's mentioned in the MOA. That's one of the super important things. There are times when professionals like us, we normally believe that, okay, hey, company would have the borrowing power, why should we ask that? But MOA is the publicly available document. You can definitely download from an MCA website. So please make sure that you at least know a basic information what a company can do and what a company cannot do, right? Based on this, you can even ask for the borrowing resolutions. You can ask for the resolutions pertaining to company's power to borrow. Has it taken any special blanket approval for that entire financial year? How much it's planning to borrow? All this information you can ask, right? How do you get to know this? You will have to read the MOA and AOA to just understand which committees have the authorization. Is the board authorized to do these things? Is the shareholders are required to approve these things? All these things is something that you have to know. So to just get that familiarity with the things, various stakeholders like regulators, SEBI, RBI, or for that matter, customer suppliers, ask this report. So that's predominantly the stakeholders who comes with the requirement of this report. So customers, suppliers, regulators, shareholders, directors, last but not the least, banks and financial institutions. So these are the guys who comes. Now, before I move to the topic, a little recap. What did we study? We understood, why a company or why the requirement of a report came into existence in the first manner. What are the two facets that's inclusion of this report, which is search and status. And we understood that who are the stakeholders who normally come up to professionals like us asking for this report, and why do they come up, right? So with that as a background, the next thing I'm going to be showing is the practical way, how if you are appointed as a PCS and if you are being given this objective, or if you have been given this task of doing the search and status report, how would you do that is something that I'll be discussing. Any questions so far? What are the general points to be kept in mind by professionals while preparing? I'll be telling that, so don't worry. I will be discussing on that aspect. Hey, Ishita. Okay. Cool, then. I'll just share my screen again. Right. We'll come to this at a little later stage. I'll come on this aspect. So search report under the Companies Act, the ready right now, the way how practically you need to be doing, or the steps that you can be undertaking to do the search and status report. First and foremost thing, examination of the documents that are registered on the MCA 21 portal. Go to the MCA website, download all those publicly available documents. At times you have to pay a fee of maybe 100 or 200. So get all the documents downloaded about the company that you're planning to do. That's the first initial step. Then the next step that you have to be doing is inspection of all these documents. So there are times when you can even go and do a physical examination. Normally, no one does at this particular point of time. What they do is every time when you open, like let's assume you have downloaded all the charges on all those information that's there. So you open that charge forms, you understand what are the attachments to it, what agreements are being attached, what are those particular property that is securitized or particular properties that is secured in terms of that particular loan. Is it a secured and unsecured loan? And if it's a debenture, CAG9 is filed or not. So many other things that you see. And next, cross-verification of the documents from the MCA records. So where you will cross-verify, with the documents that you have obtained from the company to those what is filed with the MCA record. So you will have set of MCA records, you will verify all that. You go to a company, you request maybe let's assume a company has about 50 charges, so take a sample of about 10 charges, and you ask for the respective documents, filed or respective supporting documents pertaining to that charge. Of course, a charge form will only have certain documents. It will not have a very detailed list. It either has term sheet or the sanction letter. It has deed of hypothecation. Sometimes they do attach facility agreement, but normally they don't. So either deed of hypothecation and term sheet will be attached along with the resolution. So whatever the other documents that will be executed for that particular transactions, you request from the company. So let's assume in our case, 50 charges are there, 10 charges you have selected as a sample. You requested that company and they have given all the documents. You cross-verify it. You see if there's any changes that is there with each of the documents. Is some of the documents or some of the pages has been replaced. So just verify that, get a confirmation that everything that is filed with the MCA are right in manner. And then there will be certain observations that you will get, right? Because you've approached the company, you do request the company to, kind of like if there is any information or issues that you have faced from the inspection of the documents, you kind of ask those questions. I'll tell you what are the major things that you have to be, undertaking, or you have to be thinking properly as a PCS or a professional who's doing a search and status report. Guys, please remember, understand what is the nature of the charge or what is the nature of the security, which means to say that is it a movable property, it is an immovable property, details of that particular property, and is it already mortgaged to someone else, or it is already pledged to someone else. If it is a movable property, what sort of a movable property it is it insurance available or not. All these details where you will find in deed of hypothecation. So in a simple manner, I'll tell you, always ask for a company the sanction letter or a term sheet. It's called in a different name, so don't get bothered. It is just to mention that a company is sanctioned or was sanctioned that borrowing facility. Then please read the default clauses. What are the default clauses that is associated with that charge? Please read the security clauses. Security clauses are super important. You'll understand what sort of a security is being given. As I told you, movable, different other security. Please understand if that particular charge or the thing is created in India or not. If it is outside India, take the information or take the supporting documents pertaining to that. And the next thing that you will have to be seeing is the resolutions. Is the right resolutions passed for that? Please see where the resolution date is. Like let's assume sanction has happened on, let's assume maybe 16th of June, and resolution date is about 1st of June. That's not a right thing. So please be careful. Always, it's very important that a sanction will happen initially or based on the draft sanction, the resolution will be passed. So be careful about the resolution date. Then please also see, because you're already seeing the entire charges as a whole, if the company has the power to borrow. If it has the power to borrow, has it taken any blanket approval in that financial year? that it will borrow about 100 crores or 200 crores or 1,000 crores for that entire financial year. And all those borrowings that has been made should always be under the limit, or it should be in the sublimit of that 1,000 crores or whatever the crores that is approved. So have the borrowing resolution. If shareholders approval is required, please see if shareholder has given. So look for a resolution of shareholders. If MGT 14 is filed, please look for that also. So all these are the important aspects that you need to be looking if you're doing a register of charge or a search and status report of the charges, right? So what did I say? Everything, right from company's name to the details of the charges, to see if the security is created or not. If the security is created, what sort of a security is being given, and then what are the default clauses, what are the security clauses, and what sort of an assets are being given. And if there is any replacement of the assets that's made, how well it is monitored, and if any CA has certified or valued those assets. If that is the case, then that is super good. And last but not the least, if the resolutions are passed in a proper manner. So anytime when you open a charge form, these are the important points that you need to be considering as a professional when you're checking a charge form. So this 5 or 6 points that I should say, you should have answers to all of this. If you don't have answers, please make sure that you ask for the company or get the right records from the company. Otherwise, there is something that's definitely happening or cooking in that particular transaction. So be very careful about that, right? So of course, once all the observations are made, you will compile, you will prepare the search report. The format in search report, of course, based on the different formats, the banks and financial institution request different way. Certain stakeholder does not have it. So based on whatever your client says, whatever the report or format that they want, please give it in that manner. And that's pretty much about it. So that's a search report under the Companies Act, or especially pertaining to the charges. Okay. I know my video was off because of sharing the screen, but 1 second. Yeah. So that's pretty much about what you need to be concentrating as a professional. Few important things, again, I want to confirm to you. Please see what that particular company does, understand the power that the company has, and understand what are the resolutions that's passed duly for that. And please check what are those documents that's filed with it, and read through the clauses, important clauses of security, charges, default clauses pertaining to that charges, and also see the tenor. And if there's any modification, please see and check for the modification. And of course, if there is a satisfaction, please see if the satisfactions are done in the post or proper manner, right NOCs are received, how they have taken note in the board, and every other thing that is pertaining to the charges. So that's pretty much how you do certain status report of a company that is pertaining to the charges alone. So this is with respect to the Companies Act. Of course, there will be certain additions based on the requirement of a client. There will be certain mentions of what a company is, if there is any powers pertaining to it, what is shareholding of a company is, who's the list of directors, and shareholding history based on the requirement of your client. But if you're doing specifically pertaining to the ROC search report of charges, these are the things that you need to be definitely looking at, all the agreements, right? Day in and day out, I read the agreements. I know the issues pertaining to it. So don't get throttled. As I told you, the important clauses that I mentioned in the sanction letter, deed of hypothecation, is something that you need to be looking at. And also please see what are the covenants that is associated. What are the financial covenants? Financial covenants is not a much of a factor for you, but please also look into the reporting covenants, and you will be able to exactly understand what's in each of a transaction is, right? So that's pretty much how or what are the things that you need to be keeping in mind if you're doing a search and status report of a company, especially pertaining to the charges or as per the Company Act, right? Awesome. Any questions so far? Hey, thanks, Ashita. Sorry if I'm missing out something. Okay. I see there are no chats, so we'll assume that you've understood. If there is any questions that is cropped off for you, definitely tell me. Again, as a matter of fact, if you want me to put up, Maybe later in the description, we can put up the certain clauses that you need to be looking. But still, as I already told you, it is that two important document. Please remember, deed of hypothecation or hypothecation deed, and the term sheet is something that you need to be looking at, and the resolution date is super, super critical, right? So I've seen most of the times the problems arising due to all this. That's the reason I'm telling you, right? Well, that's pretty much about it. Now let's go into a very new, or not even new, I guess, very different thing, different title search or different search of a particular aspect or a particular property, which is the property title search. This is completely different or completely unique than what we have learned so far, because the one that we're talking about is far more simpler, because MC has made it more simpler. The reason is that everything that's pertaining to that company is there in the MCA records. You will just go, you will verify things, you will ask the company to give the information, and you're good to go. And you based, as I told you, the obligation of you is very limited, because you're just certifying or confirming based on the records that is publicly available. But also on the other hand, the issue that becomes, or the issue that will be slightly different and more riskier is the property title search. This is mostly the job of a real estate attorney, or for that matter, a company specially, specialized in this aspect, who do the property title search day in and day out. I guess it's fairly, I'm sure anyone who's doing it, I know a lot of my friends does it. Who does this is someone who probably, have to invest a good amount of time on this. The reason is they have to check the records right from 12 years to 30 years to 40 years back data, or backdated documents, just to confirm to the purchaser or the bank that this particular property is in a right possible owner and he has a right title to that particular property, right? So definitely we will come to that aspect, but just wanted to give you a little background. Assuming that we're clear so far in terms of charges. Okay. I'll just share my screen. As I told you, to simply put, it is to know the history of the property, if that particular owner who's transferring the property is the right owner or not. It's required when it's required in the case of purchase of a new property by a person who's from a different person, or check if the hypothecated property has the right ownership or not, which means to say that let's assume a company has hypothecated a property, just to understand that the company has the right title. Right title means right ownership to that property is there or not, is sometimes property title search is done. So mostly whenever the person is taking a property or purchasing a property, or bank is giving a loan against that particular property, or to check if the hypothecated property is the right ownership or not, these are the circumstances that will lead to the property title search. So simply to put out, to know the history of the property, if the owner is right or wrong, if the owner who's transferring that property or owner who has hypothecated that property is a right owner or not, right? Now, few things, aspects that you have to remember in case of you're doing a property title search. First, the ownership, status of ownership, sole or joint, or the document stating the same. The deed copy, which is the recent deeds in respect of the property. Legal description, which means to say that what that particular property is, what is the schedule pertaining to that. Let's assume what's the dimension of that particular property. To south, how much meters it is. To left or to north, how much meters it is. So the right legal description of the property is something very important. The chain, the ownership, who was the first initial owner who was allotted right from him to the right current property owner. The entire chain of documents you need to verify. Who actually has the current possession now? If the particular property is already possessed by someone, is he the right owner, or is he possessed by someone else? So that particular thing you need to know. Right of way is that if that particular property is between the other properties, so who are the people who have the right to that way is something that you need to understand. Leases, is that particular property leased to someone else or not? Is it mortgaged to someone else or not? Is the tax, like municipal taxes that is supposed to be paid based on that property, is paid or not? And is there any bankruptcy? Is that particular property is under any bankruptcy or any charges there on that particular property, that you need to understand. And municipal service lien. So if there are times when you don't pay the municipal taxes, municipality will put a lien on your property just to take all its dues like water, sewage, and any other trash facility it will be providing. So is there any municipal lien or not? And restrictions attached to it, if it's already under any of the court proceedings, actual official plot map that is there of a particular property, where it belongs to, which area it belongs to, which district it belongs to. So that plot map is important. Property zoning, as I told you, does it belong to the industrial area? Does it belong to the flood zone? Does it belong to the ecological zone? There are a lot of times people do this, that they sell agricultural lands as a residential plots, and you can never construct a building. So property zoning is very important to understand. And civil court order, as I told you, is there any order or an attachment made by the courts pertaining to any anything under various searches? Could be spousal support or lien search or child support. If there is any property that is given for a child support, is there any power of attorney executed pertaining to that? Special assessment, various other things that is there, right? Of course, one second. Yeah. Of course, I just wanted to show you what are the few important things that is associated with the property title search. But in a simple manner, I'll explain to you. See, let's assume you're going as a simple person and wanting to buy a particular property. You definitely want to know who are you buying that from, and if that particular property owner is the right owner or not. Because in India, especially in metro cities like Bangalore, Mumbai, or various other cities, and now it has even cropped up to even villages, is that they're coming up with such a duplicate documents that the same property is being sold to 5 or 6 or maybe even 10 individuals for that matter. And that particular property would have never belonged to that person based on some power of attorney or based on something that is of a duplicate documents. Same thing will be sold by a broker to a different individuals. He'll be earning money, he'll be getting the money. But if the property comes back and says that, if the court order comes and there is a statement saying that, okay, this particular property belongs to someone else, what you will do? You would have paid a good substantial amount of money, maybe about 50 lakhs or 1 crore on that particular property. So to avoid that, the title search of the property is done. As I told you, who does this? This is done by a legal attorney or a companies which is specialized specifically for it. What they do in a simplest manner is they go and verify. The first few things that they do is they normally go and take the documents. Let's assume you're a client who's planning to buy a particular property and you go to this attorney and or maybe the lawyer. So what he does is he takes the certified copies of that particular property documents. He will look into it. He will understand where this particular property, right from the first initial allotment of the property, who it was allotted to, and who it was transferred. If it was a 10th transfer, if that right chain of property transfer is there or not. He will verify these documents with the registrar. He will see if any other person or any other property details are missed out or not. Then who was the recent owner also he will see. And of course, as I told you, simply how we go and search in our MCA records. Normally by paying certain amount to the municipal authorities, they'll give the records to you, the certified copies. They will cross-verify both of these documents and see if everything that is provided by that owner who's planning to sell the property is right or wrong. And when they're doing this, they will understand if they'll take the recent photographs of the property, because there are many times the properties are sold and the properties was never in existence. Guys, this has happened. Municipal authority will not be responsible for this. They would just register, they would take the fees, and they would say it is not their fault. The reason being is that they will just do their job based on the documents that you have provided to them. Hence, they will taking the recent photographs of that property is super essential. They'll normally see if the property has some facilities pertaining to it. They'll see if the taxes pertaining to that particular property paid or not, right? And if any lien is there on that particular property, that also that attorney will verify. He'll verify with certain court orders, or if that particular property details are mentioned in any of the court orders, he will verify that aspect also. So ideally, the objective of that legal attorney or the company who's doing this particular property title search will be able to give you the right understanding of if the particular person who's planning to sell that property or planning to hypothecate that property has the right ownership or not, right? If you understand this, then you're good to take that particular property from him. If that particular property owner is not the rightful owner, never you should take this thing, because there are many times, as I told you already, the examples pertaining to agricultural land being sold as a residential plot, or anything that's like a flood zone being sold into or converted into residential zone. I'm sure you would already seen in the news that many places which were lake, they normally, kind of like once the lake dries up, they just put a little bit of a soil or kind of does it into more of convert it into a land, and then the building and the building is collapsed. The reason is that the water body is still there as a matter of fact, right? So just to avoid all that, seeing all this thing is super essential. So it is in simple way. Let's assume you're planning to, if you are a student, you're going, or maybe let's take in a simple manner. If you're a teacher, the thing that as a teacher, what they do in the schools, they normally see that, okay, is this handwriting belongs to this student or not, or has any of his parents written or not? It's a simple verification they do, right? So same way, the lawyers or the attorneys stand in this place, they do the verification of where the particular property belongs to, whom does it belongs to, and does that particular person has the right to transfer this asset to someone else, or lease this asset to someone else, or sell this asset to someone else, is the important thing. So that's predominantly about property title search. Definitely a lot of things goes to this. Of course, for us as a PCS or company secretary, this is not so much of a relevant topic, because we won't be doing this on a practical aspect, or we won't be doing in a practical side. But if you're working in a law firm, you'll be able to get the practical understanding of it. But as I said, I've learned it from my friends. Even if I'm sure, if any of your family members is buying a property, certain important things that goes to it is something that I've already told you. The ideal objective is to understand if that particular owner is a rightful owner of that particular property or not. So that's predominantly what a property title search involves, right? The parties who's involved is the client who's planning to buy the property, or the client who's planning to pledge the property or hypothecate the property. And sometimes banks request for it if the bank is giving the loan to that particular person to buy the property, or if the particular person is coming and hypothecating that property and taking the loan from the bank, then again bank request. Or otherwise, if I'm a purchaser of the property, I can definitely go to a legal attorney and say that, hey, you know what, I'm planning to buy this cost about 50 lakhs. Can you just go and verify and tell me if that particular property is a rightful owner or not, or if there is any issues or legal disputes involved in it. So there are various stakeholders with their own respective objective, but the understanding is to understand if the title, or if the title to that particular property is right or wrong. So that's predominantly the property title search, right? There are times when there are certain restrictions I've seen in the practical aspect. If the bank is doing, ideally the bankers always prefer those attorneys who are already there in the panel members of the banks. So instead of you going to any of your friend whom you know as a lawyer, it's always suggested to go to those lawyers who the bank suggests, because they'll already be in the member or a panel member to that bank. So if they do it, they will value your, or they will process your documents in the easiest manner. So that's one of the practical issues that I have seen coming across. A lot of people come across that. So whatever the bank suggests, if you're taking a loan from the bank, do approach the bank and ask what they want, and take the advices based upon those attorneys, right? So that's predominantly the property title search. Okay. Okay. Hey, hi Soham. That's nice. Good to hear that you're appearing for CACT. It's just the start of your thing. Please do learn. Definitely industry requires great professionals like you. So it's amazing to learn, it's amazing to see you guys joining. So that's pretty much about it, what I wanted to discuss. I guess just to do a little recap, we understood about the matter of fact that why the search and status report came into existence, and who are those stakeholders who request for the search and status report, what are the facets or what are the segments that is involved in the search and status report, and how do we do as a PCS or a PCA, or for that matter, an in-house counsel, how do we deal with search and status reports? And last but not the least, we learned about the property title search, which is not our area, but still we would definitely want to learn about it, because this is applicable, or this will be, useful even in our normal personal lives, because maybe one day we might also buy the property. So it's better to know what involves in the property title search and whom do we go and have to approach, right? So that's predominantly the thing that I wanted to discuss in this class. As considering, I'm just going to leave out for like, how do I say? Yeah, I'll just leave out for like maybe 5 minutes. If you have any questions, please shoot out. Otherwise, also anything pertaining to the subjects that, that we're planning to take, you can even ask. Or recently I did a crash course on open book subject. The lot of good responses has been received towards it. If any one of you wants it, you still can go and approach Ekcel Academy. Maybe they'll be able to give you an access to those classes. This was done freely. The reason being is that we wanted to, kind of reach out to more students. Again, I'm sure we all are dealing with this pandemic. There's so many things that's going on. Definitely, our aim is to give you more comfort and confidence in terms of approaching your exams in the best confident and possible manner. So hence, various crash courses, or even for that matter, live sessions like this is being conducted, just to make sure that, you're far more confident in terms of approaching the exams, right? So that's our objective. As I told you, I guess it's 9:05. So I'll leave out for like another 2-3 minutes. If you have any questions, please let me know. If we don't, then I guess I'll assume that we have understood things predominantly, or whatever I explained you guys have understood that. And if there's any questions, start putting out. Even after this, also you can always mention your, questions in the comment section. We'll be able to answer to you. And again, just to stress upon, if you are not a professional student, or if you are a professional student who's planning to give the exam in the coming future, please enroll to our classes. Make sure that you learn from a person, or you learn from those professionals who've been already working predominantly on the things. So this could be various subjects. I'm sure Ekcel Academy has come up with most of the subjects in the professional syllabus, like professional this thing. So I guess in whatever those, modules or groups that you're giving, do enroll for the classes. Just make sure that you learn from a good, right people. And, you don't have that stress of learning everything on your own. And you can, learn and approach your exams in a more confident manner, right? So that's pretty much about it from my end. Okay. Okay, I'm assuming that we don't have any doubts. So it was great chatting with you all and explaining on this topic today on search and status report, and also especially on the charges and property title search. If you have any questions pertaining to this, please do reach out and mention those same in the comment section. We'll be more happy to answer that back. And yeah, that's all. Thank you all. And thanks for those people who have watched this particular thing. And if there's anything, do let us know. As I already told you, if you have any questions pertaining to any of the any of the classes, it could be professional, executive, do reach out to the number that's provided below. And I guess Ekcel Academy correspondent or a person would be able to help you, right? Thank you so much. I'll see you soon and with the next classes. Yeah.